Hi, my friend, it's Pat Sloan here. There's just a lot of things to go over today. This is a jam-packed little episode. First of all, I'm just going to get us going on UFOs. That's on our calendar. So let me just do that first because I have the two UFOs at least two that I have declared. I have this whole list of stuff. This is my whole list. And what are we on the 14th of the month? And I have not worked on all of them, any of them rather. So these two. Let me just show you what I need to do. I need to find the binding for them. So I now have this basket with binding in it. So I know as I'm working on things and they're either in a stage where I'm almost ready to send them off to get long-armed, which is the spa, or they've come back and I haven't done them yet. So the bindings are all going in here. So for those two quilts, I need to hunt around in here. There's also like stuff for hanging sleeves. And yeah, so I need to look in here and find the binding for those two. If the binding is already made, then I'm good. And I will do a label, which is just a square folded in half, and get these two worked on. So they are high on my list. Once I have that binding done, I know I can do those in the evening late. I do it all in the machine, sew it on the front, sew it on the back. So that is my goal for setting a new goal, my UFO goal. So if you want to announce your UFO goal for the rest of this month, you can do that over at the community, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan at Facebook, or you can do that here at YouTube. Leave me a comment. Just talk about what your UFO goal is, because once you put it out there, it sort of makes it more real. Okay, we have Midnight Moon. Today is where we need to make the next blocks, and so I need to be cutting mine today so I can sew them during the week. And we have, what are the two this week? They are Crown of Thorns and the Birds in Air. I really like Birds in Air. It's sort of like our rainbow quilt that we did last year, where it's just got all triangles. So I'm really excited to do those. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, I had moved Book Nook today, but I'm moving it to Monday because I have a giveaway with that Book Nook. So something new. So I want to be sure I have a post at my website about it. So that'll be for Monday. All right, the last few days we had so many fun things in the group. We had limericks, we had a scavenger hunt. And so the limericks are so fabulous. You must just go and scroll the group in chronological order and read them. They are just wonderful. Now for the scavenger hunt, I thought I'd collect a few of them and show them to you. So let's go. Mary has totally repurposed her mom's changing table that she used for 5 children as a desk with her computer on it. Her mom now is 95 years old. Kim found these wrapping paper carts. This is really cool. So she's got thread on where the wrapping paper would have been, drawers for things. Belinda and many of the others of you have used skirt hangers for rulers, for quilt blocks, for projects. So they're really useful. There were several ways to use toilet paper rolls or the toilet paper holders. I thought Linda's was quite fancy. There were a lot of different containers for needles and pins and things like that. This one Jan found, I think she said at Goodwill for 50 cents. It was a dip holder. And I love the scissors on top of the snowman's head. Weights are a big thing for all of you. Tons of people use weights to hold down your rulers, like Terry is showing us here with her purple one. This is one I've never seen before. Robin is using a match holder to keep her pins, so that when she's working, she just tosses them in the top of the match holder. They fall down into the tray. I thought that was really cool. Lots and lots of places for you to store your things, like Lynette's CD rack. So there was all kinds of different CD racks shown and different storage units. So that works out for your pre-cuts. Diana is using, this is one of my favorites. I did this for years. Take one of the creamer bottles and put water in it. As Half Pint said, this is going to remind her to have coffee. So Joanne has got a really cool one. It is a hospital tray that she repurposed and put a ironing board pad on top of it. So that's really nice. Carmen is putting bobbins for travel into a pill holder. You know, so it's got the days of the week, and she just puts her different bobbins in there to use as thread, you know, when she's working on travel. And then Kay showed us her coat tree rack. I've not seen a coat tree one. She's got the big ring so she can hang the rulers on it. I've seen a lot of tabletop ones for like coffee mugs that people hang things on. So that's really cool if you have one of those. It probably tucks in your space really neatly. You are so creative, all of you, just using fun things in different ways and cute things. Yes, both fun and cute. That's my that's what I like about quilting and the community, and it was just so great. I love that one lady showed her husband. That was the non-quilting thing she uses in her studio because he helps her do this or that. So that was super, super cute and very clever. Okay, another thing on our calendar today is a celebration of trains. Greg, my husband, loves trains. I love trains. We both come from having trains being sort of interwoven through our family. He lived right on the back of the train tracks, which are the exact same train tracks my great-grandfather walked across every day to go to work because he lived right next door to Greg, as Greg was when he was younger. My great-grandfather worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad, and he would just get out of the house and just walk literally across the tracks to the station that was sitting there for many, many years. And so we have lots of wonderful train things that go on. So I have this train quilt that I did for one of my books years ago. And if you have a quilt with trains or train fabric, show it today in the community, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan, or if you just want to tell us all about it here in YouTube. Okay, I have a few other things. We had tips. We had some great tips come in. So the first was about, where'd I put it? Another use for freezer paper. And I thought, I'm just going to try it. So let's go. So our friend Tina gave us a tip for cleaning the design boards. So I have been using design boards for quite a few years now. I purchased them. I don't make them. You can make them. There are tutorials out there by Lori Holt and other people. These are designed by Lori Holt. They're sold via lots of places. I'm sure I get mine from the Fat Quarter Shop. And since I've had them for a few years, I've noticed that there's some, they've changed the items on them a bit, when they make newer ones. I think they've gone and changed the surface material just a little bit, because the older ones I've been using for a while, all these threads get very caught up. I'm going to see if you can see that. They get very caught up into the surface like this. And they're hard, like the rollers don't really pull them off because they're sort of embedded in the material, which it's not batting. I think it's a type of fleece. But on the newer ones, the material seems to be just a little bit different, like maybe they've changed it. So what I want to do is use her tip for freezer paper. So this is the freezer paper that I use. I only use the name brand because I think it's best. I've used it for years for applique, putting on the back of labels so that you can have a little firmness to label when you're writing on it. Freezer paper has a shiny side and then a paper side. So we only care about the shiny side for this, which will get stuck to the front of the board and then warmed up, and then we just peel it off and hopefully we get some threads. So I have tested it and I will show you. We will have, let's do it on the older one. So the older one, I'm just going to do half and half. So the older one is, the threads tend to stick a lot more into that fluffy surface. So you don't have to warm this up much. You're not cooking a roast. You just want to give it a little bit of warmth. And then when you pull it, what I notice is I am pulling off some threads. So you can see that. The surface, these are not glued down, they're just sort of wrapped. Now there's still a lot of threads there. See, there's still a lot of threads, although it did pull up some, so that's good. I'm going to try the newer one now, because on my test I had better luck with the newer one. Let me put that on this side and press it. So now let's pull it off, and what I'm finding is that it actually sticks to this one a bit more. And so I kept my hand here so I wasn't like pulling that fleece up. But it is pulling the threads off a lot more on the newer one. So look at that. So here's where I did my test. Here's the middle versus the older board, which I've done a test and what you just saw, and there's really not much difference. So the problem, not that it can't be used, it's just not pretty anymore. So what I will probably do with the older ones, if it's bothering me, is I might have to go through and actually just sort of, you know how you used to have those sweaters that had like pilling on them, and you had that little thing that you ran over it to get all the pilling off. So I think what I have to do is just kind of pull up this extra surface that's of this white that's kind of not pilled but just fluffed up. So it's fluffed up like this, and I just sort of cut it off. And that way I can get rid of some of this surface stuff and make it smoother again. It should only take a minute. I have a variety of ages of these. So a few of them are really getting icky looking, and it doesn't make them not usable. They're just not as pretty. So it did work nicely on the newer ones that I've gotten. So I'm sort of excited about that. So I'm going to clean off that. I'm going to clean off that last part for this one. That worked really well for the newer one. The older one, I mean, it would get a little bit up, but I'm not sure it was any better than like a sticky roll. So I think I just definitely have to go through and trim those with the scissors and get the sort of, you know, extra stuff off of there. Okay, I also have an in the news. So a lot of you have been sending me some things to you know, read about online or go experience like at a museum. So let me run that. Carol sent this article about Welsh quilting, which I think is really fascinating. The article is from the BBC, and it is about how the Instagram helped this Welsh quilting sort of get out into the world to people. So I think it's really a cool read, so you want to go over and check that out. Katherine sent me a link to a wonderful story about a 99-year-old veteran in her community that received a Quilt of Valor. So those are always such wonderful stories, and there's actually a little video on that one. Now, we were talking about quilt museums. Someday I'd like to make a list, and Beth found that the American Patchwork and Quilting magazine has a starter list. There's probably a few that might not be on there, but it's a pretty good list. So there you go. That's also in the description box below. And the final one is from Eileen, and they're at the American Folk Art Museum in New York. They have lent quilts, hand-stitched worlds is an exhibit that they have lent out to the Utah Museum of Fine Arts. And so if you are near Utah, you should be able to go over there and check out these quilts in person. It is very neat to see things from the other countries too, like the Welsh quilting. So for those of you who are not in the US, please send in things that you have, because if they're on the internet and we can all go read about it or learn about it, we want to do that. Okay, let me wrap up with a mail call. I have a wonderful note from Katherine in California. She sent me a beautiful little note and some edges. Yes. Thank you, thank you. And then from Nora in Texas, she sent me this pretty card with a note and some of the horse fabrics. So she had some pieces of them. They were fat quarters, and she asked if I would like them, and I'm just so thrilled to have them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Plus, there was a panel, I guess, of, you know, horse heads. So we have that too, which is really cool. Look at this. I didn't know about that. And there was a pattern. So if I can find it online still, I will link it to you. It was a free pattern for the fabric line, and so I will link it to you. And if I can find it online still, to uses those fabrics. And then I had a sweet note from Gretchen in Oklahoma, who wanted to know if I needed another layer cake. And I think I'm good, Gretchen. So I just wanted to let you know that I have the one. I think that's good enough, because now I have this, so now I have to decide, do I make 2 quilts with the horse fabric or what? Okay, last thing before we go, I did clean off with the scissors. I trimmed away. Doesn't that look much nicer? And then this is the one, the pink one is the one that I did with the freezer paper. So there you go. Okay, my friends, if you have a train quilt, share it. If you want to share about your UFOs, do that. Have a fabulous, fabulous day. I love you. Mwah. See you in the Sloan Zone and online.